Welcome to the Prophecy Club. Our topic today is most urgent and important. I've got this really important. And the second thing we're talking about is now we know what could cause the dollar and the stock market both to crash at the same time, and more information on massive arrests coming. Okay, we'll start with most urgent and important. So I ran across this from a friend, Michael Snyder, at the Most Important News. He had a dream, and I think it is perhaps one of the most important dreams that I think anybody's gotten, at least in the last 20 years, maybe in the last 30 years. It's not long, it's not details, but it's extremely important. He said, I had one of the most alarming dreams of my entire life. On Friday night, I went to bed shortly before midnight, feeling perfectly fine. But then, in the middle of the night, I had a dream which shook me greatly. Sometime after 2 a.m., I suddenly woke after the dream had concluded. I quickly realized that something was very, very wrong. I sat up in bed to see what would help, but it didn't. So I stumbled out into the living room and sat down. That didn't help either. I went over to the refrigerator, got out some applesauce. I thought if I got something in my system that might stabilize my physical condition, that didn't help either. Now, I'm skipping a whole lot. He says, I was shaken by the dream, and it took a long time before I felt good about going back to bed again. I wanted you all to understand how this dream affected me before I started describing it. It was a dream about Donald Trump, the United States, and Russia. And as we know, the United States and Russia are about to sit down with Saudi Arabia and talk about ending the Ukraine battle. This is really important. He says, and I skipped a lot, okay? Donald Trump is an old school businessman from New York City, and he has a very unique negotiating style. When Trump is trying to get something accomplished and there is resistance, sometimes he will say crazy things or make very serious threats in order to put the other side off balance. In other words, Trump, don't push the Russians around. They have greater military. They can defeat us right now. Don't go over there and act like a bully. Let's go on. In cases where Trump has most of the leverage, his approach has worked well. But in other cases, such as this approach would not be wise at all. What was most important was that I heard in the dream a voice say, if Trump follows his usual pattern of making outrageous statements and threats with the Russians, it will backfire severely. Now, I would love to say I have a phone to Donald Trump. I have his cell phone number. Maybe you can pray that God would give me his direct cell phone number. He probably wouldn't answer anyway. Probably the chances, if we wrote him a letter or even tried to reach someone, probably the chances are pretty slim. But I have seen this many times, where when we fast and pray, which is what I'm calling everyone to do, especially our FastGap team, which I'll talk about in a minute. If we pray, I have seen things this big and bigger be softened or delayed or simply prayed away. And right now, we got to pray, my brothers and sisters. We got to pray. This is really, really important. Let me read that last phrase again. In the dream, I heard a voice say, if Trump follows his usual pattern of making outrageous statements and threats with the Russians, it will backfire severely. In other words, Trump and his team go over there and start pushing themselves around and acting like they're a king of the world and being a big bully. And maybe the Russians would go ahead and get angry enough to go ahead and take us out sooner rather than later. And I would prefer never, but never is probably off the table. Let's go on. This was said with a lot of force. The voice still really shook me up because the message was delivered with such power. Then it happened again. That's twice. In the mouth of two or three witnesses, let a thing be established. Then it happened again, but the voice was even more forceful this time. In fact, I was told the same thing by this voice multiple times. In other words, God is screaming at us. Probably we can't get this message to Trump. I think we should try. If any of you have any connections, we should try to get this message to him. But most important, what we can do is pray, because God can change. He raises up kings, he puts down kings. He raises up nations, he puts down nations. He turns the hearts of kings, and he can certainly turn the heart of Trump and all of his team. But it's only going to happen through our fasted prayers. More on that in a second. I was told the same thing by this voice multiple times, and each time the voice became even more forceful. It got to the point where I felt like the voice was literally exploding inside of me. In other words, yelling at him, like happened to John the Revelator out on the book of Patmos when he heard a voice behind him as of a trumpet. That's probably what this sounded like a trumpet. At the end of the dream, just before I suddenly woke up, I heard 3 words. I hope you're listening. This is real important. I heard 3 words that were delivered with immense power and authority. You tell them. Okay, so Michael Snyder is directed to put the word of the Lord out. In my opinion, when it's the true word of the Lord, God always says, put it out. He does not say, oh, well, you can't put it out and you can't put it out, but you guys can. I like y'all. Y'all can put it out, but you guys can't. Okay, like someone recently. You will tell them. You tell them, I will never forget that. And so now you know why I feel so compelled to share this dream. We need to pray that President Trump will make wise decisions. All sorts of people will be giving him all sorts of advice, and it won't always be easy to know which way to go. No, it won't. This is a very important decision. This is a nation-killing decision if he makes a wrong mistake. So, I'm asking our fasted prayers this week. Now, this is what I sent to the FastGap, which has now already gone out, our FastGap fasting and prayer team. We have about 850 people on that, and I'm about to ask you to join if you're not already a member. I'm asking our fasted prayers this week and perhaps several weeks to be that President Trump and his negotiating team would have the right heart in negotiating with the Russians, that they would not be a bully, pushing the Russians around, acting as if Russia has no power or authority. In other words, acting like they're king of the world and they rule the roost. But God would give all involved on both sides a kind and gentle heart to be friends and work together, including Ukraine and our European allies involved in the negotiations. All feelings of anger would be held inside their heart and or removed. At the conclusion, we're fasting and praying that the Russia-Ukraine war will come to a peaceful end. Russia, Ukraine, America, and the European allies would calm down and see peace is more important than getting everything that they want. Both sides come to a peaceful agreement and become at least friendly, if not friends. Now, this was an email I got from Michael this morning, as you can see. He says, please feel free to share it. When it's of God, that's what they do. Anytime someone says, oh, well, it's of God, but you can't share it, my opinion, that's not God. Anyway, he says, I agree that it also goes along with what Dmitry Duduman was shown many years ago. Let us pray that President Trump chooses to be quite diplomatic with the Russians. Threats and bullying will not work. In fact, threats and bullying would just push us closer to nuclear war. Here it is. So, United States and Russia meet in Saudi Arabia, first meeting in years. Now, this was a long article. I didn't put the whole article in here. I might talk about this tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see. But this was part that I felt led to put in today. Things have gotten so bad for Ukraine and its Western sponsors that the entire collective West, that's including NATO, is now incapable of supplying the amount of ammunition and artillery shells needed to continue the war. Now, let me say something about that. One of the things that helped America to win World War II is not just that when the war started, we have everything on hand we needed. We didn't. But, I mean, all of America, united, and we're not united now, united, all got to work building the war machine. Everything from planes and bombs and bullets to tanks, everything else. Everybody went to work. Well, how about now? Well, today we've got kids that are locked into YouTube and locked into playing all these games, and we don't have the greatest generation right now. If we were to get in a conflict right now where we really had to fight, I don't think I need to say more. It wouldn't be good. Russia, on the other hand, has stepped up its military-industrial production and now produces, get a load of this, 7 times more military output than all of NATO combined. In other words, Trump and his buddies go over there and kick sand in the face of the Russians, and Russia might just go ahead and take us out now rather than 2 or 3 years down the road. And I prefer 2 or 3 years. I prefer 20. I prefer never, ever. As these numbers demonstrate, Ukraine has no hope at all winning the conflict and is losing on the battlefield terribly. Every day, Russian army troops win more and more land as Ukraine troops are forced to retreat farther and farther back. I think it's supposed to be further and further back, but nevertheless, I'm not an English major. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. I'm going to ask you to go to prophecyclub.com. I just pulled this off. This is exactly what it looks like right now. Then if you'll slide to the bottom, it looks like this. See that pink arrow? That's what I want you to do at the very least. It doesn't cost anything. It doesn't hurt. We never send product offers. We never ask for donations. This is only if you want to join some 850 other of your brothers and sisters that are doing the same fast, the same prayer, the same day. See, but the Bible says 1 could put 1,000 to flight, 2 could put 10,000 to flight. So, when we do the same fast, the same prayer, the same day, it gives it far more power. And I believe there's going to be other people fasting and praying about this. But even just our group, if we fast and pray, same prayer, same day, same fast, I think we can stop this. We can turn it around. So here's what you do. To go to prophecyclub.com, put your email, first name, last name, and I promise you can unsubscribe anytime you want to, okay? I type it up every Tuesday evening with all the typos, and there are typos, okay? I send it out directly from me to you saying, this is the fast, this is the prayer, and this is what we're all praying and doing, same day. And if you want to be a part of the solution, if you want to be a part of seeing America last a little longer, maybe a whole lot longer, then join FastGap. And by the way, while you're there, you might join Fast Track also. Fast Track is praying for Prophecy Club and that it gets the oil and all the souls and the sports stadiums and all of that. But FastGap, that's praying just for America. Okay, and if you want to be on the general Prophecy Club email, there it is. So I'm gonna ask you to join us. Okay, doesn't hurt, doesn't cost anything. I do not sell anybody's name ever. So all you'll get, I promise, all you'll get is just a Tuesday evening email, if I don't forget, and asking you to fast and pray. And here's the fast, and here's the prayer. Okay, let's go on now. Next topic. Now we know what could cause the crash of the dollar and the stock market together. And I'm shocked. I never thought of this. Here it is. Musk signals Doge could look into gold at Fort Knox. Now, on the surface, it doesn't look like that's real important. But that's real important. Okay. Tech billionaire Elon Musk signaled Monday that he will be looking into Fort Knox, where the United States has a massive and heavily secured gold reserve. Or do they? He also shared a post from Senator Mike Lee in which the senator said that he had been denied access to Fort Knox, an Army installation in Kentucky. Who is confirming that gold wasn't stolen for Fort Knox? Maybe it's there, maybe it's not. The gold is owned by the American public. We want to know if it's still there, Musk said. He was also pushed to look into the reserve by Senator Rand Paul, who said on X in response, if Musk is questioning if the reserve is reviewed annually. Now, here's more of the important part. There's more than 147 million troy ounces of gold at Fort Knox, so they say, which houses more gold than other locations in the United States, according to the data from the Treasury Department. Fort Knox has a strict no visitors policy, which was broken when members of the Congress inspected the gold in 1974 after former President Roosevelt did in 1943. Fort Knox would be the latest target of the Department of Government, DOGE, overhauled the government agencies. Now, here's what you got to look. Okay, Fort Knox holds approximately 4,580 metric tons of gold. Actually, I can't tell you how I know this. And I believe it to be accurate. I can't prove what I'm about to say, but I believe it to be accurate. There's like 400 million metric tons of gold on the planet, at least, perhaps even more. So when we say 400,000 or 4,580, that's not much. But that's still, every metric ton of gold is supposed to be there. We want it to be there. So this tells you where it all goes. The article goes on to say, Ron Paul, there's a very good chance that the gold at Fort Knox is not there. Hang on, this is important. I was on the Gold Commission in the early 1980s. We had 17 members of the board and 15 voted against auditing the gold. Even if you walk into Fort Knox and even if you see the gold, what does that prove? Because it might be all pledged or all loaned out. In other words, just because America's got gold sitting in their gold reserves like it's supposed to, that doesn't necessarily mean it's ours. Once again, you cannot believe the government and what they tell you about the gold. Now, here's the point. If an audit of Fort Knox reveals that the U.S. doesn't have as much gold as claimed, here it is. The impact on financial markets would be massive. I'm going to say devastating. Here's the breakdown. See, because all this time we've been wondering, okay, what's going to make the value of the dollar drop 30%, 30%, zero, worthless as leaves blowing in the wind? Well, we were told by Shane Warren what would start that would be when they started selling oil and other currency other than the dollar. That started June 9, 2024. But we haven't seen the dollar fall, not 30%, 30%. We haven't seen that yet. But this, my friends, this could not just cause the dollar to fall, but also the stock market to fall. Watch. So what is the impact on the U.S. dollar? Loss of trust. The U.S. dollar is no longer backed by gold since 1971, but a Fort Knox scandal would destroy confidence in the U.S. financial integrity. Boom. There it is. You want to know what could kill the dollar real fast? Kill the stock market almost overnight? Boom. All of a sudden, Musk goes over to Fort Knox and he says the gold's not there, or all of the gold is not there, and all of a sudden, that dollar crashes like that plane up in Washington, D.C. It hits the ground and boom. Let's go on. There's more. Devaluation. The USD would drop sharply as investors flee to safer assets. Inflation risk. If people panic and dump USD, prices of goods, especially imports, could surge. Well, that's what the prophecy said is coming too. I didn't put that on here. Matter of fact, I didn't put prophecyclubgold.com on here, but I will tell you, 800, 200 gold. I've said it a lot. 800, 200 gold doesn't hurt, doesn't cost you anything. Just call them and say, okay, look it. I got some money over here. I don't want to lose it. What do you suggest? And listen, let's go on. Inflation risk. If people panic and dump USD, prices of goods, especially imports, could surge. That also fits with what Shane Warren was told about give us our entitlements, with what Doge is doing, and Musk is firing people left and right, which, I'm all happy for that. I want to see the government cleaned up. I want to see the swamp drained. But I also see the prophecies, and they haven't started coming to pass as fast as at least I thought they would. So maybe it's about to happen. Let's go on. All right, now what are the impact on stocks? Short-term panic. Markets could crash, especially companies reliant on government stability, which is most of them. Commodity and gold miners surge. Companies mining gold, silver, and other commodities could skyrocket as investors rush to hard assets. Now, I'm told by the guy we interviewed here from Genesis Gold that there is a finite amount of silver. They haven't found new silver deposits, no new silver mines in years. And when the silver runs out, and they believe that is very close, the price could skyrocket. Well, if they find out that there's no gold in Fort Knox, yes, the price of gold is going to go up, but the price of silver, again, I'm not giving financial advice, okay? I'm a prophet. We're talking prophecy here. I'm a prophecy teacher. But we could see that silver skyrocket, just like Shade and Warren was told. Overall, a Fort Knox scandal could trigger a historic financial crisis, making gold, Bitcoin, and hard assets the biggest winners. Now, let's talk about the new information concerning massive arrests. Doge finds complete corruption in U.S. Treasury and cannot track payments. Do you suppose that Trump and his team are waiting until Musk has gone through and done auditing in all of the different departments so that they know who is going to be arrested? And then once they've done all the investigations, they've filed all of the sealed indictments, and then all of a sudden the massive arrests start? Well, when would that be? Well, I don't know exactly, but it doesn't look to me like it's going to be too long. In the Treasury Computer Payment System, there's a field called the Treasury Access Symbol, or TAS. It is an identification code linking the Treasury payment to a budget-lined item, standard financial process. In the federal government, however, the TAS field was optional for $4.7 trillion with a T in payments and was often simply left blank, making traceability impossible. Why would they not want to trace where their money goes? Obviously, it's going to bad places. A Treasury person could go into the computer, have it issue a check or wire transfer for almost any amount, payable to literally anyone, anywhere, for anything or nothing. And there is no way to trace the budget item or agency that is supposed to authorize and pay for it. Just one huge pile of money going wherever they tell it to go. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Too bad our name's not on the list, huh? Next high item, top Social Security chief ousted after blocking Doge fraud investigation. Acting Commissioner Michelle King exits the Social Security Administration after refusing to give Doge access to the records to investigate potential fraud. She was replaced by, okay, now here's the point. They're also doing this at the IRS, and the IRS supposedly is supposed to be laying off all kinds of people this week. Doge seeks access to the IRS taxpayer data. Sought access week to closely controlled IRS data system known as Integrated Data Retrieval System, which is said to house millions of taxpayers' data. So far, no access has been granted, but they say they're going to give it. So, to bring much-needed efficiency to our bureaucracy and being carried out legally and with the appropriate security clearances, which would give Doge officials access to several systems as well as IDRS. My point. So what happens when they find bad things in our Treasury, as they have, Social Security, as they have, IRS, as they're about to, Fort Knox doesn't have any gold, and then they go into the Federal Reserve? I think you remember the dream that Jason Meeks had where he said he put a credit card in the bank, got $20 out, realized he didn't get enough, and then he put it back in, and all of a sudden, instead of $1, it was like $42 to get more money out. And then he said he saw people rejoicing in the streets. That hasn't happened yet. Not the credit card thing, in other words, the switch of money. We haven't seen people rejoicing in the streets over Trump. Yes, there's been a lot of happy people, but could that be because a lot more bad things are exposed, and finally Trump stands up and does something really, really good, and as a result of that, a suitcase nuke went off? See, the reason, based upon the information I have up to this point, and we may get more information on the JFK assassination very soon, but based upon the information we have to this point, the reason JFK was assassinated was he was changing the money system. That's what Trump is about to do with this Fort Knox thing. And also if he goes into the Federal Reserve, and they're probably going to do that in the IRS. So we could see a whole new financial system, as the prophet's been telling us is coming. We could see that in the next few months, which means we could also see suitcase nukes. We could also see a massive arrest. I'm telling you, the things Prophecy Club been bringing you, it's right on. Now, I thought about, I can't read all of this. There's 6 pages of this. Trump suspends funding for National Endowment for Democracy and USAID, waste, fraud, and abuse. This lists, and there's a lot more, 6 pages of this, all of the things that this USAID, I mean, it was like the devil stealing and putting the money to the best use to kill our nation. And this is a list of some of the things that billions of dollars have been wasted on. So, what's my point? I would say, first, you better make sure you have Jesus in your heart. Second, I would say you need to make certain that you have yourself a water filter, prophecyclub.com, that you have food, Joseph's Kitchen, that's an S in that, josephskitchen.com. Get yourself some food. Don't pay $10,000 a year for one person. $1,000 a year to get your food. I think you should probably think about going to EMPShield.com, getting yourself one of these devices for your house and your car. Ask yourself, when society falls apart, what do you need? And ask God to show you what you need and get prepared. Yeah, I want to remind you that Joseph's Kitchen still has site-wide free shipping. I don't think they've ever done this, but this is a really big discount on everything. Right now, everything there, you can get free shipping on it. And since a lot of the things that they ship, the wheat and all that sort of stuff, are really heavy. I mean, a lot of times they come on pallets. So to get free shipping, that's a big deal. Joseph's, with an S, kitchen.com. Also, if you watched the program yesterday, I interviewed Jonathan Rose, and he's with Genesis Gold Group or prophecyclubgold.com. Get a hold of him, 800-200-GOLD. Also, if you want some prepper bars, there's the phone number. And if you want to, now for the first time, if you have crypto and you want to put that into an IRA, for the first time, they've just set it up, you can call these guys, or actually you go to the website, blocktruστira.com. 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 And it'll tell you all about it. If you don't even understand crypto, he says that place will help you to understand it. Medical. I take that to mean that not only myself, but also those that follow Prophecy Club, in addition to all of the other preparations we've made, we need to start making medical preparations. And I put that out, and I was deluged with emails sending me to this place. This is the place that all of you seem to like when it comes to medical supplies. So I called them, hooked up, and I've arranged to get you a 5% discount when you use the promo code PROPHECY. 5% discount, and it's refugemedical.com. And as you can see, they have all kinds of, here's one of the main things you need to get. It's called a burn bucket, and you go to refugemedical.com. refugemedical.com.